There is growing scientific recognition that the foods we eat can influence not only our risk of developing cancer, but also the course it may take if we do become ill. Our diet, once considered merely a background factor, is now being investigated at the cellular and molecular level as a potential driver of some of the most aggressive and deadly forms of cancer. The implications of these findings are unsettling, especially for those who assume a generally healthy lifestyle guarantees protection. One of the most concerning aspects emerging from the latest research involves a common dietary fat found in many households: linoleic acid, an omega-6 fatty acid abundant in seed oils such as soybean, corn, and sunflower oil. In a study conducted by researchers at Weill Cornell Medicine in New York, linoleic acid was shown to activate a cancer-promoting pathway in triple-negative breast cancer cells. This type of breast cancer, which makes up roughly 15% of all cases, is known for its aggressiveness, resistance to hormone therapies, and poor treatment options. What's alarming here is not just the statistical association, but the specific mechanism researchers have identified. Linoleic acid binds to a protein called FABP5, which is highly expressed in these cancer cells. This interaction triggers the mTORC1 pathway, a key regulator of cell growth and metabolism, fueling the unchecked proliferation of cancer. The study went further than just examining cells in a lab. In animal models, mice that were fed a high linoleic acid diet developed larger tumors. The link between dietary fat and cancer progression was not just theoretical, it manifested in measurable biological outcomes. Even more concerning, human blood samples from triple-negative breast cancer patients showed elevated levels of both FABP5 and linoleic acid, reinforcing the idea that this is not merely a laboratory phenomenon but a real, biologically relevant process in living patients. This discovery is disturbing not only because of what it tells us about a common nutrient, but because it challenges long-standing assumptions. For decades, linoleic acid has been defended as heart-healthy, a staple of modern diets promoted by many mainstream dietary guidelines. Seed oils rich in omega-6 fats have become ubiquitous in processed and ultra-processed foods. And because linoleic acid is an essential fatty acid, meaning the body cannot make it and must obtain it from food, many have assumed that its inclusion in our diet is automatically beneficial or, at the very least, harmless. That assumption is now under serious scrutiny. While some past observational studies, including a large 2023 meta-analysis, have found no statistically significant link between linoleic acid intake and breast cancer risk across the general population, this new research zeroes in on a specific subtype of cancer and a specific molecular pathway. That level of detail is rarely achieved in nutritional science, and it should not be ignored simply because broader epidemiological data paints a more ambiguous picture. Science evolves, and with it, our understanding of risk must also evolve. The fact that earlier studies may not have detected this mechanism is not an argument for complacency. It's a warning sign that our food environment may be more dangerous than we previously believed, especially for those genetically predisposed or already dealing with disease. The modern Western diet is heavily skewed toward omega-6 fatty acids, often at the expense of omega-3s found in fish, flax seeds, and walnuts, which are known to reduce inflammation. Chronic inflammation is not just a vague health concern. It is a known promoter of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and neurodegenerative conditions. The imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3 intake in modern diets is not just theoretical, it is measurable, pervasive, and potentially dangerous. It is no longer sufficient to say, everything in moderation, when moderation has been distorted by a food industry that loads most processed products with omega-6 rich oils. And yet, the response to this growing body of evidence is often muted. Headlines might caution against overreaction. Experts might warn not to panic. But maybe some level of concern is warranted. If specific fats in our everyday cooking oils are contributing, even partially, to aggressive forms of cancer, then continuing to consume them without reflection is not just a dietary choice, it's a gamble. One we might not fully understand until it's too late. The study doesn't argue for an outright ban on seed oils, nor should it. But it does point to the urgent need for reevaluation of what we consider healthy fats. Olive oil, for example, contains more stable monounsaturated fats and significantly less linoleic acid. It has long been associated with better health outcomes in large, long-term studies, particularly in the context of the Mediterranean diet. Shifting toward these fats, while increasing our intake of whole foods like fruits, vegetables, legumes, and fish, is a strategy not just for general health, but increasingly for targeted disease prevention. Despite warnings from experts not to sensationalize these findings, the public deserves to know the potential risks tied to common food ingredients. Health organizations continue to focus on obesity as the primary dietary risk factor for cancer. While obesity is certainly a driver of cancer risk, this study suggests that even in the absence of obesity, certain fats might directly fuel cancer in susceptible individuals. That's not something we can afford to overlook. Ultimately, we are only beginning to uncover the full extent of how dietary components interact with our biology in complex and sometimes dangerous ways. Linoleic acid, once regarded as benign or even beneficial, may have a darker side that science is only now beginning to illuminate. For those at risk or already facing a cancer diagnosis, these findings are not just academic. They are personal and potentially life-altering. The idea that what we eat every day could influence whether a tumor grows or not is no longer a fringe hypothesis. It is a reality we must face, with seriousness, with skepticism toward overly simplified dietary advice, and with a renewed urgency to reclaim control over the ingredients in our food.